Hello everyone, Douglas here and welcome to this special review, and today I will be reviewing An Adventure in Space and Time. This is a docudrama and it is written by regular Doctor Who writer Mark Gatiss, and he wrote this for Doctor Who's 40th anniversary, but the BBC decided to bring back the show. I remember I first watched this back in 2013 when I was a junior in high school, and Doctor Who was celebrating 50 years, and man, I can't believe it's been 10 years ago when I first saw this. Our opening scene begins, and we see a police box. We see a car, and we see a policeman steps out of the box. Inside the car, we see William Hartnell, played by David Bradley. We see that he is having a flashback and he is getting ready. We see the TARDIS console room, and I got to say that is well done. And they are filming the first Doctor's last story, The 10th Planet. We see William entering the TARDIS console room. We go back to 1963, where everything begins. We see Harry, played by William Russell, and Sidney Newman, played by Brian Cox. We find out that they need to fill the gap for 25 minutes. We are at a party and we see Verity Lambert, played by Jessica Raine. We see Verity gets a phone call from Sidney and Verity meet. And Sidney wants to do a science fiction serial. We see that Sidney wants Verity to produce the show, and she was the first female producer and they broke new ground for that. We see William Hartnell is at home. William Hartnell played army figures and crooks, and he wanted a change. We see Verity is trying to find the right actor to play the Doctor. We see Heather, played by Leslie Manville, and she gets a phone call. We see William and his wife are walking and talking, and Heather is talking about the offer from the BBC. We see Wallace Husson, played by Sacha Darwin, who would go on to play the Master. We are at a bar, and we see Verity and Wallace are talking about the show. We see William is meeting with Verity and Wallace. We get to hear the Doctor Who theme, and Verity is talking to William about the show. I like Verity's line when she says, C.S. Lewis meets H.G. Wells meets Father Christmas. And that is a good description of the first Doctor. Interesting fact is that C.S. Lewis died before the show premiered. We see the press release of the show, and we see William Russell, played by Jamie Glover, Jacqueline Hill, played by Jemma Powell, and Carole Ann Ford, played by Kildee Grant. We see William is reading the script. We see that they are getting ready to rehearse for the first story, The Unearthly Child. We find out from William that he wants to talk to Verity about his character because he was abrasive. We do see Verity is meeting with the art department, and we do see how the TARDIS was created. We see they are filming the first story in the TARDIS console room, and it is hot in the studio. You can tell that they had problems filming the first story because the doors won't close properly and the studio again is hot, and then the power goes out and the sprinklers go off. A funny line from Wallace when he says, wish I knew what bloody dimension I was in. We see Sidney is having lunch with Verity and Wallace. We see that Sidney wants to reshoot the first story because in the pilot they were full of mistakes and the Doctor was abrasive. We see that they are redoing the first story. We see Sidney is impressed with the results. We see that the next story is going to be about Sidney's rules, no robots, and no bug-eyed monsters. We see Sidney is reading the script for the Daleks. And what happened on that day? The JFK assassination. We see Melvin Penfield, played by Jeff Rawle, and he wants Sidney to kill Doctor Who, and he doubts Verity. We see that Verity wants to do the Daleks, and she wants a repeat for Saturday because of the assassination. I like Sydney's line when he says, "Your neck is on the block." We get to see the Daleks. We see Peter Hawkins, played by Nicholas Briggs. You can tell the production team sees something in the Daleks. We see Joyce, played by Caroline Ford. We see Verity is hearing the kids saying, "Exterminate," and this is the start of Dalek Mania. We see Sydney wants to see Verity and she thinks she might get fired. But no, the Daleks are a success and they had 10 million viewers watching this story. Without the Daleks, Doctor Who might not be successful. We go to 1964 and we see William Hartnell messes up his lines. We see they are filming Marco Polo. I like William Russell's line when he says, "No one is irreplaceable." But he's wrong, they are replaceable. We see Rawle says goodbye to Verity and he goes back home. We see William and his wife are on a bench and they are talking, and we see a little boy and he wants an autograph. We see him asking when the Daleks are coming back, and we see him surrounded by kids. We see William is having fun with the kids, and you can tell he loves playing the Doctor. We see they are filming the Dalek invasion of Earth with the famous bridge scene. We see that Caroline Ford is leaving the show. We see William calls the director Wallace, and you can tell his health is not that good. We go to 1965 and we see Maureen O'Brien joins the cast. We see Heather wants William to move on from Doctor Who. We see Heather is telling Verity that he has articulosis. I am sorry if that was hard for me to pronounce, so sorry about that. We find out that Verity is leaving the show. I love William's line when he says, "You're my rock." We see Verity and William are talking and she says thank you to him. We see Jackie Lane, played by Sophie Holt, and Peter Purves, played by Edmund C. Short. I like William's line when he says, "They've all gone," and a lot of production changes, because John Riles is now the producer, and oh boy, he did not get along with Hartnell. We go to 1966, and we see Michael Craze, played by Robin Valley, and Anneke Wales, played by Ellie Spice. We find out that the show can't go on. We see Sydney is meeting with William, and he tells William that they want to continue with the show, but not with him. We see that Sydney wants Patrick Troughton to be the next Doctor, and William approves of this. We are back in the car, and we see the policeman. I love this scene when the policeman says, "You're Doctor Who. Wait until I tell my kids." We see William is back at home, and he tells his wife what happened. I love William's line when he says, "I don't want to go." And you can tell he loved playing the role of the Doctor. And David Bradley does amazing acting as William Hartnell. We are in the TARDIS console room, about to film the regeneration scene, and we see Patrick Troughton, played by Reece Shearsmith. I love William's line when he says, "There's only one man in England that could take over." We see William is operating the console, and we see the 11th Doctor, played by Matt Smith. And this was a touching moment, and you can tell William has hopes about the show's future. We go to the credits, and we find out what happened to the people after they worked on Doctor Who. I will say, I absolutely loved this. It was so amazing to watch this again for the first time in 10 years. There were some Doctor Who actors that made cameos, but I couldn't spot them. The only ones I spotted were William Russell and Caroline Ford. I think David Bradley does great as William Hartnell, and we would see him again as the first Doctor in 2 stories. I will give An Adventure in Space and Time a 10 out of 10. So, that is my review of An Adventure in Space and Time, and I just wanted to say you all a happy Thanksgiving and a happy 60th anniversary to Doctor Who. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel, and I will see you next time.